Have you ever walked into your beautiful garden expecting to harvest a perfect, shiny vegetable, only to find a disgusting hole rotting in the side of it? Prepare yourself, because everything you thought you knew about organic gardening might be a lie. Today, we are talking about a garden criminal so stealthy it laughs in the face of your expensive organic sprays. I am talking about the notorious tobacco moth, also known as the budworm. You have been told that organic farming is the ultimate solution to all garden problems. You have been told that a little neem oil and some good intentions will keep your plants safe. But what if I told you that relying strictly on organic methods to stop the tobacco moth is basically giving this pest a free pass to destroy your entire harvest?
By the end of this video, you will discover the frustrating truth about why organic solutions completely fail against this specific bug. And you will finally understand the secret to actually protecting your hard work. Are you ready to face the uncomfortable truth about your vegetable garden? Let us get right into it. Before we expose why organic methods fail, we need to understand exactly who the enemy is. The tobacco moth is a widespread agricultural pest. Depending on where you live and the exact species, you might know it as the Oriental tobacco budworm or the corn earworm. Do not let the name fool you. It does not just eat tobacco. This pest absolutely loves peppers, tomatoes, eggplants, and corn. For decades, farmers and home gardeners have waged a desperate war against this insect. In the past, harsh, heavy chemicals were sprayed blindly over fields to kill them. But as we all became more aware of the environment and our health, the organic farming movement took over. We traded in the chemical backpacks for natural soaps, plant extracts, and biological controls. We wanted to work with nature. The problem is, nature is brutal. And the tobacco moth evolved over thousands of years with one specific survival strategy. It learned how to hide perfectly. To understand why your organic sprays are useless, we have to look closely at the incredibly clever and incredibly frustrating life cycle of this garden destroyer. Let us start by looking at how the invasion begins, because it happens completely under the radar. The adult tobacco moth is a small, brownish, boring-looking moth. You will almost never see it during the day. It hides deep in the foliage, resting and waiting for the sun to go down. When night falls, the females take flight. A single female moth can lay hundreds of eggs in just a few days. She flies from plant to plant, looking for the absolute perfect spot. She does not just drop eggs randomly. She carefully glues single eggs right next to the flowers or the tiny, newly formed fruits of your pepper and tomato plants. These eggs are incredibly small. They look like tiny grains of sand. Even if you inspect your plants every single day with a magnifying glass, you are probably going to miss them. This is the first major flaw in the organic approach. Organic farming relies heavily on observation and early intervention. But how can you fight an enemy that you cannot even see? While you're sleeping comfortably in your bed, feeling proud of your organic garden, the tobacco moth is quietly planting hundreds of tiny time bombs all over your precious vegetables. The invasion happens in total silence, and by the time you realize what is going on, the battle is already halfway lost. Now, let us talk about the hatching phase, which is the most critical and frustrating part of this entire story. After about 3 to 5 days, depending on how warm the weather is, those invisible eggs hatch. Out comes a microscopic caterpillar. This tiny larva is hungry, and it is in a hurry. It knows that while it is out in the open air, it is vulnerable. It could be eaten by a bird, fried by the sun, or washed away by the rain. So, the tiny caterpillar does not waste time eating leaves like a normal bug. Instead, it crawls straight toward the fruit. It finds the softest part of your pepper or tomato, usually right near the stem under the cap.
This journey from the egg to the fruit takes a very, very short amount of time. Sometimes it happens in just a few hours. This tiny window of time is the absolute only moment when the insect is exposed to the outside world. If you are using organic sprays, this is the exact moment you need the spray to be on the plant. But think about how impossible that is. You would have to spray your plants every single day, exactly when the eggs hatch, just to have a chance of hitting this microscopic bug. It is a logistical nightmare for any home gardener or small farmer. Once the caterpillar reaches the fruit, it executes the Great Escape, and this is where the real nightmare begins. The tiny bug uses its strong jaws to bore a hole straight through the skin of your vegetable. It wiggles its entire body inside and essentially shuts the door behind it. Congratulations! The caterpillar is now completely safe inside a customized, climate-controlled, all-you-can-eat buffet. The inside of a pepper or a tomato is hollow, moist, and protected from the elements. The caterpillar can now sit inside your vegetable for weeks, eating the seeds and the soft inner tissue, growing fatter and fatter every single day. This is the exact reason why organic farming hits a massive brick wall. Your vegetable has just become a fortress. The skin of the pepper is designed by nature to be waterproof and tough. It protects the seeds inside, but now it is protecting the enemy. No matter what you do on the outside of the plant, the caterpillar inside is laughing at you. It is completely shielded from everything the outside world has to throw at it. This physical barrier is the ultimate defense mechanism, and it is the key to the tobacco moth's incredible survival rate. So, let us break down exactly why your favorite organic sprays fail. Most organic insecticides, like insecticidal soaps or natural oils, are what we call contact killers. This means the liquid literally has to touch the body of the bug to kill it. The spray works by clogging the breathing pores of the insect or breaking down its soft outer skin. But remember where our caterpillar is hiding. It is deep inside the fruit. When you go out to your garden with your pump sprayer, full of expensive organic liquids, you are spraying the leaves. You are spraying the stems. You are spraying the tough outer skin of the pepper. The liquid just drips right off. Not a single drop of that organic spray makes it inside the hole where the caterpillar is actually living. You are essentially trying to wash a car to clean the inside of the engine. It just does not make any sense. You can drench your plants in organic contact killers until the soil is soaking wet and a tobacco moth caterpillar will not even notice. It is completely immune because it is never exposed to the poison. This is the heartbreaking reality that many organic gardeners refuse to accept. Contact killers are completely useless against a pest that lives inside the fruit. But what about organic repellents? You have probably read hundreds of articles online telling you to make a strong-smelling tea out of garlic, hot chili peppers, or peppermint oil. The theory is that if the plant smells terrible, the moth will be confused and will not lay her eggs there. It sounds great on paper, right? A totally natural, chemical-free force field. Unfortunately, this is one of the biggest myths in the gardening world. The tobacco moth is not a human. It does not care if your garden smells like an Italian restaurant. These moths have highly specialized antennae. They do not just smell generally, they lock on to the specific chemical signature of the host plant. A pepper plant gives off a very specific carbon footprint that tells the moth, "This is the perfect place for my babies." Your garlic spray might mask that scent for a few hours, but as soon as the sun hits it, or the wind blows, or the dew settles at night, the garlic smell fades. The moth, flying under the cover of darkness, easily finds the pepper plant anyway. Relying on smelly organic repellents to stop a highly evolved agricultural pest is like trying to stop a freight train with a piece of cardboard. It simply does not work in the real world. Now we have to talk about the holy grail of organic pest control, neem oil. If you ask any organic gardening group how to fix a bug problem, someone will immediately scream, "Use neem oil!" Neem oil is extracted from a tree and it contains a natural compound called azadirachtin. This compound is actually quite amazing. When an insect eats it, it messes up their hormones so they forget to eat and cannot multiply. It is systemic to a very, very small degree in some plants, meaning the leaf absorbs a tiny bit of it. But here is the fatal flaw when it comes to the tobacco moth. Neem oil is heavy. It degrades quickly in sunlight, and most importantly, it does not penetrate the thick, waxy skin of a tomato or a pepper in high enough concentrations to reach the inside. When the tiny caterpillar first hatches and takes that one single bite to drill into the fruit, it might ingest a microscopic amount of neem oil if you perfectly coated that exact millimeter of the pepper. But usually, it just pushes the skin aside and crawls in. Once inside, it eats the untreated seeds and pulp. Your expensive, smelly neem oil is sitting harmlessly on the outside of the fruit, doing absolutely zero damage to the fat caterpillar, living a life of luxury inside. Let us look at another famous organic weapon, Bacillus thuringiensis, commonly known as BT. This is a naturally occurring soil bacterium. It is considered the ultimate organic caterpillar killer. When a caterpillar eats BT, the bacteria creates a crystal inside the bug's stomach that essentially makes their stomach explode. It is highly effective against leaf-eating caterpillars like hornworms or cabbage loopers. So, why does it fail against the tobacco moth? For the exact same reason everything else fails: delivery. BT is a stomach poison. The bug must eat it for it to work. You spray the BT on your plants, but the tobacco moth caterpillar does not eat the leaves. It eats the inside of the fruit. The only way BT works against the budworm is if you spray it constantly, hoping the tiny caterpillar eats the spray during the 5 minutes it takes to bore into the fruit. Plus, BT breaks down incredibly fast under ultraviolet sunlight. It only lasts a day or two on the plant. So, to use BT effectively against the tobacco moth, you would have to spray your entire garden every 2 days, forever, just to catch that tiny window of vulnerability. It is expensive, exhausting, and practically impossible for a normal person to manage. Okay, so what about natural predators? Organic farming relies heavily on the food chain. The idea is to attract good bugs to eat the bad bugs. We buy ladybugs, praying mantises, and lacewings and release them into the garden like a tiny army. It is a beautiful concept. Ladybugs are amazing at eating aphids, which sit right out in the open on the leaves. But let us think about the mechanics of this. Have you ever seen a ladybug try to chew through a thick green pepper? Of course not. They do not have the mouthparts for it. Once the tobacco moth caterpillar is inside the fruit, it is completely invisible and completely safe from almost every predator in your garden. A praying mantis cannot see it, a bird cannot see it, spiders cannot reach it. The fruit acts as a bomb shelter. The only predators that can reach them are microscopic parasitic wasps that can drill their egg-laying tubes through the skin of the vegetable to inject their eggs into the hidden caterpillar. While these tiny wasps are amazing, they are very rare, incredibly sensitive to weather, and they usually arrive way too late in the season to actually save your crop. Relying purely on natural predators to dig caterpillars out of your peppers is a losing strategy. One of the most devastating things about the tobacco moth is not just what it eats, but what it leaves behind. When the caterpillar is safely inside your pepper, eating away, it is also producing waste. It poops inside the fruit. This creates a warm, moist, dark environment full of organic waste. This is the perfect recipe for a secondary infection. Bacteria and fungus from the outside air find the tiny hole the caterpillar made and enter the fruit. This is why, when you finally notice a problem and cut the pepper open, it is not just missing a few seeds. The entire inside is a disgusting, black, slimy, rotting mess. The damage is amplified tenfold. This rotting process also creates a gas that causes the fruit to ripen prematurely. Have you ever noticed one pepper turning red way before the others, only to find it is soft and ruined? That is the tobacco moth at work.
The organic farming community often talks about plant resilience, saying a healthy plant can survive a little bug damage. But this is not a little chewed leaf. This is the total destruction of the harvestable fruit. You can have the healthiest, most organic soil in the world, and it will not stop a vegetable from rotting once a caterpillar opens the door for bacterial infection. Many traditional organic gardening books swear by crop rotation. The rule is simple. Do not plant tomatoes or peppers in the same spot you planted them last year. The idea is that pests overwinter in the soil, and if you move their food source, they will wake up in the spring and starve. This is fantastic advice for soil-borne diseases and slow-moving bugs. But the tobacco moth has wings. It flies. In fact, adult moths can be carried by wind currents for dozens or even hundreds of miles. Moving your pepper patch 20 feet to the left side of your yard is not going to confuse a flying insect. When they emerge from the soil in the spring, they simply take to the sky, smell the air, and fly straight over to your new garden beds. Crop rotation is an excellent practice for maintaining healthy soil biology and preventing fungal blights. But as a primary defense strategy against a highly mobile, flying pest like the budworm, it is completely useless. You are simply rearranging the furniture in a room where the thief already has the keys to the front door. We have to stop pretending that basic gardening traditions are magic spells that ward off all danger. If you look through organic farming catalogues, you will eventually find pheromone traps. These are sticky cardboard triangles that contain a synthetic version of the scent the female moth uses to attract males. The idea is that the males fly in, get stuck, and cannot mate with the females. Less mating means fewer caterpillars. It sounds like a brilliant non-toxic solution, but here is the trap, pun intended. Pheromone traps are excellent monitoring tools. They tell you exactly when the moths have arrived in your area. But as a method of total control, they fail miserably. Why? Because you are only catching the males. The trap does nothing to stop a female moth that has already mated from flying into your yard and laying 500 eggs on your peppers. Even worse, if you put a highly attractive pheromone trap right in the middle of your garden, you are literally broadcasting a signal to every male moth in the neighborhood, inviting them to your yard. Some of them might miss the trap and find a female instead. Using a pheromone trap as your only line of defense is like installing a security camera. It will show you exactly who is robbing you, but it will not actually stop them from taking your stuff. We also need to address the very popular idea of companion planting. This is the organic practice of planting certain flowers or herbs next to your vegetables to create a protective barrier. Marigolds are the most famous example. People plant borders of marigolds around their tomatoes, believing the strong smell repels insects or that the bright flowers confuse them. While companion planting is great for attracting pollinators like bees, its ability to repel serious pests is massively exaggerated. The tobacco moth is not confused by a marigold. It is genetically programmed to find nightshade plants like peppers and tomatoes. It will fly right over your beautiful wall of flowers without a second thought. Sometimes, companion planting can actually make the problem worse. By creating a dense, jungle-like environment with lots of different plants, you are providing perfect hiding spots for the adult moths during the heat of the day. They rest in the cool shade of your companion plants, and then simply hop over to your vegetables when the sun goes down. It is a harsh truth to accept, but planting basil next to your tomatoes makes a great pasta sauce, not a magical force field against the budworm.
Let us talk about the brutal economic reality of this pest for small organic farmers. When a home gardener loses a few peppers, it is sad and frustrating. But when a small-scale organic farmer gets hit by the tobacco moth, it is financially devastating. Because they cannot use conventional, highly effective pesticides, their only option is to watch their profits rot from the inside out. They have to spend hundreds of hours manually checking fruits, sorting out the damaged ones, and throwing away massive amounts of produce. Consumers at the farmers' market want perfect organic vegetables. They do not want to slice into a pepper and find a fat caterpillar staring back at them. This pressure forces organic farmers to use massive amounts of expensive organic sprays, which we already established do not work well, driving up the cost of farming without actually solving the problem. The sheer amount of wasted food caused by this one insect is staggering. It makes us question whether rigid adherence to organic rules is always the most sustainable path, especially when it results in 50% of a crop being thrown into the compost pile because a bug got inside the fruit. So, if organic methods fail, what actually works? This is where we have to talk about the uncomfortable truth of modern agriculture. The reason commercial farming is able to produce millions of perfect, blemish-free peppers and tomatoes is because of systemic insecticides. A systemic chemical is totally different from an organic contact spray. Instead of just sitting on the leaves, a systemic pesticide is absorbed by the roots or the leaves and actually enters the vascular system of the plant. The chemical circulates through the sap and moves into every single part of the plant, including the inside of the fruit. This completely changes the rules of the game. Now it does not matter if the caterpillar is hiding inside a bunker. It does not matter if it is protected by the tough skin of the vegetable. The moment the caterpillar takes a bite of the fruit from the inside, it ingests the pesticide and dies. There is no escape. The plant itself becomes the weapon. This is the ultimate foolproof way to defeat the tobacco moth. It completely bypasses their entire evolutionary strategy of hiding inside the fruit. It is highly effective, and it is the exact opposite of organic farming. Of course, bringing up systemic pesticides immediately starts a massive debate. And it should. The reason organic farming exists is because people are rightfully concerned about spraying chemicals that end up inside the food we eat. With a contact spray, you can wash it off in the sink. With a systemic pesticide, you cannot wash it off, because it is literally inside the cellular structure of the tomato or pepper. This is terrifying for many people. Chemical companies argue that these pesticides are applied early in the season and break down to completely safe, undetectable levels by the time the fruit is harvested. Regulatory agencies set strict limits on when these chemicals can be used. But for the organic purist, any synthetic chemical inside the food is a complete deal-breaker. This creates a terrible paradox for the gardener. Do you stick to your strict organic principles and accept that a massive portion of your harvest will be destroyed by invisible caterpillars? Or do you compromise, use modern agricultural science, and guarantee a perfect harvest? This is the painful reality of growing nightshades. There is no easy, perfectly clean, completely natural answer when facing an enemy that hides inside your food. Is there any physical, non-chemical way to stop them? Yes, but it requires a level of dedication that borders on insanity. I am talking about exclusion netting. This is a very fine mesh net that you drape completely over your entire garden bed, sealing it tight to the ground. If the moth cannot physically reach the plant, it cannot lay eggs. This is 100% organic and 100% effective. But let us look at the practical reality of this. Pepper and tomato plants grow huge. Building a secure structure to hold nets over 6-foot-tall plants is expensive and difficult. More importantly, you are blocking access to the plants. How do the bees get in to pollinate the flowers? If you block the pollinators, you get no fruit. So, you have to go out there, pull the nets back, manually pollinate every single flower with an electric toothbrush or a cotton swab, and then seal the nets perfectly back up. If you leave even a 1-inch gap at the bottom, the moths will find it, crawl inside the net, and now they are trapped inside with your plants, safe from birds, and will destroy everything. Netting works in a laboratory, but in a real backyard, it is an exhausting, impractical nightmare. What about the oldest organic method in the book? Hand picking. Some hardcore gardeners will tell you the only true organic way is to go out every single night and hunt the bugs yourself. Let us imagine what this actually looks like. It is midnight. You are exhausted from a long day at work. Instead of sleeping, you are standing in the dark with a flashlight, gently turning over hundreds of leaves, looking for microscopic eggs or tiny caterpillars the size of a grain of rice. Because once they are inside the pepper, hand-picking is useless. The fruit is already ruined. You have to find them in that tiny 3-day window before they bore inside. Do you have the time to inspect every millimetre of a 50-plant garden every single night? No one does. And even if you did, human error is high. You will miss eggs. It only takes one surviving caterpillar to ruin a giant, beautiful bell pepper.
Hand-picking is great for giant, obvious pests like tomato hornworms. They are huge and sit right on the leaves. But hunting for stealthy, microscopic budworms in the dark is an exercise in pure frustration and failure. Another massive factor that makes the tobacco moth so impossible to beat organically is the climate. These insects are completely driven by temperature. In the past, cold winters would kill off a large portion of the overwintering pupa in the soil. But with winters becoming milder and summers starting earlier, the dynamics have completely shifted. In a warm climate, the tobacco moth does not just have one generation per year. They can have up to 6 generations in a single summer. This means the population explodes exponentially. While you are trying to fight off the first wave with your weak organic sprays, the second, third, and fourth waves are already breeding. By August, the sheer numbers are overwhelming. There are simply too many moths laying too many eggs for any organic defense to hold up. They operate a war of attrition. They wear you down. You might win a few battles early in the season, but as the heat rises, their life cycle speeds up. Eggs hatch faster, caterpillars grow faster, the pressure on your garden becomes intense, exposing the fundamental weakness of passive organic defenses.
So where does this leave us? Do we just give up and let the bugs win? Or do we drown our gardens in synthetic chemicals? The answer lies somewhere in the middle, in a concept called integrated pest management. This is the intelligent compromise. It means admitting that blindly spraying neem oil is a waste of time, but also recognizing that we do not need to nuke the garden with systemics on day one. It starts with realistic expectations. If you are going to garden totally organically, you have to accept a percentage of loss. You will lose 20 to 30% of your peppers. That is the tax you pay to nature. You plant extra to compensate. Second, you use smart timing. You use those pheromone traps not to kill, but to monitor. The exact week you see a spike in male moths in the trap, you know eggs are being laid. That is the only time you aggressively use a biological spray like spinosad or BT, hoping to catch the hatchlings.
You focus all your energy on that narrow window. It is about working smarter, not harder. You stop relying on myths like garlic spray and start relying on insect behavior and precise timing. Ultimately, the story of the tobacco moth is a harsh lesson in the realities of nature. We love the romantic idea of organic farming. We want to believe that a perfectly balanced garden will naturally protect itself. But insects like the budworm are biological machines built purely for survival and reproduction.
They do not care about your organic certification. They exploit physical barriers by hiding inside your food, rendering 90% of organic treatments completely useless. By understanding how this pest operates, from the invisible night flights to the indestructible fruit bunker, you can finally stop wasting money on remedies that do not work. You can stop blaming yourself when a pepper rots. You now know that it is not because you failed as a gardener, it is because you were fighting an enemy with an unfair advantage. True garden mastery comes from understanding the exact biology of your enemy and adapting your strategy. Whether you choose to accept the losses, use precision timing, or switch to modern synthetics, you are now making an informed choice based on science, not just hopeful organic myths. And there you have it, the absolute brutal truth about the tobacco moth and why it completely destroys the illusion of easy organic farming. We have uncovered the incredible, stealthy life cycle of this pest, from the invisible eggs laid under the cover of darkness to the microscopic caterpillars that drill into your vegetables, turning your own peppers and tomatoes into impenetrable fortresses. We revealed the hard science behind why contact killers, garlic sprays, and even powerful natural options like neem oil and bee tea simply cannot reach a bug that lives inside its food. The game is rigged against organic sprays. This is a massive turning point for any gardener. Realizing that you have been fighting an unwinnable war with the wrong weapons is frustrating, but it is also empowering. You now have the knowledge to stop wasting your time and money on myths that do not work. You can now make smart, calculated decisions about how to manage your garden, whether that means accepting some natural losses, practicing precise integrated pest management, or making the tough choice to use systemic solutions. Gardening is a constant learning process, and understanding your enemy is the first step to victory. Thank you so much for watching and diving deep into the science of the garden with me today. If this video opened your eyes and helped you understand why your vegetables were failing, please hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. It really helps the channel grow. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever cut open a perfect-looking pepper only to find a caterpillar staring back at you? What is the most frustrating pest in your garden right now? Let us discuss it in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video.